Good morning, everyone. Please, if you can hear me, just indicate, just respond.
Good
You can
morning.
hear me.
Good morning.
Morning.
Good morning. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Okay. So it's 11 a.m. and we'll start immediately. So my name is Kelechi Madu. The I am the visual graphic designer at Ndukwe Kalu Foundation. My colleague will join soon as the programs officer. Imam Abrazak Imam. He will join soon. Just a bit of technical issues. So once he joins, the meeting will commence properly. So they just a size question. Okay. He's here.
Okay,
All right.
thank you so much. I'm here. Thank you, Kelechi.
Yeah.
Good morning, everyone. My sincere apologies for joining late. I was trying to fix a bit of a technical issues from my end. Thank you for joining. I don't know if you permit me to give just 3 minutes for other speakers to join. I can see that we have most of the participants joining, but permit me to give additional 3 minutes or to start the webinar fully. Thank you. Okay, this is 11:03. Exactly the 3 minutes we have requested to start the meeting. Good morning, everyone. My name is Abdurazak Imam. I'm the programs officer of Ndukwe Kalu Foundation. And I'm happy to welcome everyone, all participants, and also the speakers who have joined this call. Today's crucial webinar is looking at the what's rights for children and their data, exploring best practices when designing online services to engage with and protect the children. To quickly take you back, you remember that we've been having an annual event called COSPRA Summit, which is in full child online protection, so child online safety, protection and reporting of abuse summit, which usually holds every year within the confines of NKF. So with regards to that, what we try to do is to address the issues of child online protection and see best medium to help solve some of those issues using the stakeholders insights we usually have in that summit. But before the summit, what we usually do is to have a webinar that brings experts such as the speakers we'll be having today to speak on some of the crucial issues we are having in recent times. We've had webinars on privacy and data protection. We've had webinars on multi-stakeholders collaboration and partnership across sectors. We've also had webinars that looks into their literacy empowerment or literacy education to understand or to teach them what are the basics of child online protection. During this period, we also try to reach across schools to help facilitate these literacy campaigns for both the teachers and the schools. So this webinar is just one of the follow-ups to have some of this data in one place before the summit. And this gives us the opportunity to welcome some of our expert panelists here to discuss about some of these crucial issues. Today's, just like I've mentioned earlier, today's topic is basically looking at the ethical platforms design and data collection and compliance and with children protection laws such as the NDPA 2023 and the role of technology in creating safe digital spaces. We've had the opportunity in the past to discuss the policy aspect of some of these things. We've also looked for, possible ways to discuss how cross sectors collaboration happens within stakeholders. This time we are trying to look at how we can best implement some of these practices we've had in the past to implement, to help implement while building platforms, either for children or for the general public to access without with a child convenient design and practices being implemented on the platform. I'm sure the speakers who are here are more versatile than me. With the little introduction I have given, I believe that their insight and some of their deliberation here will be useful. And this way we can have a follow-up practices or implementation going forward. In this call, we have NERA representatives. We want to also acknowledge the presence of NERA CEO, which is a parent organization of Ndukwe Kalu Foundation. I'm sorry I did not introduce the Ndukwe Kalu Foundation earlier. Ndukwe Kalu Foundation is basically a CSR of Nigeria Internet Distribution Association. We are mandated to basically push CSR initiatives of NERA itself in the areas of child online protection, capacity development, and also research and development in the areas of DNS. One of the mandates is the reason why we are doing this. So we want to acknowledge the presence of NERA CEO. We also want to acknowledge all the staffs of NERA who are here today. We want to also welcome our speakers from the Nigeria Data Protection Commission. We want to also acknowledge the presence of our speaker from Nigeria Exchange Point. We want to also acknowledge the speakers from Women Affairs. We also want to acknowledge the speakers from private sectors we have here, to mention but a few. I wouldn't like to take much of our time. I'm sure our executive secretary will do a proper welcome remarks, and in that she's going to properly discuss the reason why we are here today. Please permit me to introduce Ms. Erica Okibe, our executive secretary in the Ndukwe Kalu Foundation, to give us an opening remarks. Thank you so much. Yes.
Thank you very much, Mr. Abdulrazak Imam. Thank you very much for all you've done. And I want to say thank you to everyone being here today. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, from wherever it is you're connecting. And we're very delighted to have you join us today on this webinar. My name is Erica Agbenu Okibe. I am the Executive Secretary for Ndukwe Kalu Foundation. For some of you joining us today for the first time, you may be interfacing with us, but this is one of the things that we do a lot. We have these webinars from time to time. We try to interface with the public and also inform them of what the child online protection and safety is one of the strongest key points of what we're doing here in the Ndukwe Kalu Foundation, aside the other aspects that I've mentioned to you by our programs officer. So straight to the point, why are we here today? It's a very interesting topic when you think about discussing children's rights and you want to know why Ndukwe Kalu Foundation, or why we are gathered all here to discuss this. This is today a very, very touchy subject, and it's a very core of our shared humanity. The right of children to safety, dignity, and privacy, both offline and online, is one of the things that we are focusing on today as a foundation and as different stakeholder groups gathered in this webinar. When we speak of children's rights, we often think of food, shelter, education, and protection from harm. But in our fast evolving digital world, a new dimension has emerged. Yes, the right to control and protect their digital footprints. That's why we are here. Children today are not just passive consumers of technology. They are active participants, learning, socializing, dreaming, all within a space that too often forgets how vulnerable they are. Let me share with you a story of a little child I met sometime when I traveled. Her name is Ene. Ene is a bright 9-year-old student, and she schooled in one of these Nigerian universities. She is so Nigerian in secondary school, pardon me. Now, Ene loved painting and sharing her artwork on the children app designed for young artists. You know, some of these schools now, right now, these British schools, you see how they actually, train our children. They are so highly equipped, and you have opportunity to interface so many new technologies. However, due to inadequate data protection measures that were taken, her personal information, her full name, her location, even details about her school became accessible to strangers, and what started as innocent creativity turned into a risk of exploitation. Thanks to the vigilance of her parents and child protection advocates, her case helped push for stronger privacy controls on the platform. But Ene's story reminds us that children must never pay the price for adult negligence online, which is most times becoming the case in several scenarios in our country and our nation and continent as a whole. So privacy by design, platforms must be built from the start with child protection in mind. We have to, that's why we have the NCP, the Nigerian Data Protection here with us. They're going to be helping us to interface and to tell us what to do to protect children's rights. I'm not going to be taking a lot of time, but I'm certain that with all the experts we have here in this forum, we'll be hitting the nail on the head and passing right messages that every parent, every youth, every child is able to learn and able to use what we're learning today to help our children. Minimal data collection, we need to collect what's just necessary. That's what we always hear. But do we do that? We'll figure out later as we go on with this conversation. And I would like to say, on the final note, that at the Ndukwe Kalu Foundation, we believe that protecting children's data is not just about cybersecurity. It is about preserving the innocent, the dreams, and the futures of the next generation. Today, I invite us to be bold, to ask difficult questions, to demand that technology companies, governments, educators, and parents come together, not later, but now, to safeguard the rights of every child in the digital age. Because every click, every upload, every share can either build a child's world or break it. Thank you. And before on the final note, I would like to say thank you everyone for being here. We're willing and able to learn from you this morning. And on behalf of the Board of Trustees of the Ndukwe Kalu Foundation, I, Erica Okibe, and my chairperson, Mrs. Mary Uduma, I would like to say welcome. Thanks again for having us and for being here.
Thank you so much, our amiable Executive Secretary. Thank you for your opening remarks. That was greatly insightful, and we hope participants are going to hear much of that from the speakers coming up later. I want to quickly introduce our guest speaker, who is by name Mrs. Mary Uduma. Mrs. Mary Uduma is a highly accomplished professional with extensive experience in the field of internet governance, ICT, and
Hello, can you hear me? Can anyone hear me?
Yes, we
Yes,
can.
ma'am.
Yes, ma,
We
we
can
can.
hear you.
Okay.
Yes,
Is it
we
for
can
me
hear
to
you.
make my remarks?
Yes, ma, I
Or
think
who is on?
yes, ma, I think Abdul was trying to introduce you, ma, before his next
Okay then.
interview,
Yes.
ma.
All right. All right. Okay. If you can hear me now, can I go ahead? I'm sorry, I'm managing two meetings at the same time. Please have me excused. All right. If you can hear me. I've been introduced and I am very, very happy and excited to be here this morning to just share one or two things with all of us, those online, those that have attended the webinars of NKF before or not. But you're welcome. Erica has set the tone, and Abdul also had made the right interventions. So, good morning. Maybe it's good afternoon where you are, or maybe it's good evening. But I know my colleagues are here and partners are here, and those of you from government and those from private sector. And as Erica said, security, especially the children's security online, is everybody's call, is everybody's concern, is everybody's responsibility. And we cannot but look at this, what is right for children and their data. Sometimes we do input our children data online when we are filling forms, especially when you are filling forms online for visas, for all that. So what is right? What should we expose? What should we not expose? It's both honor and pleasure to be with you from the West Africa Internet Governance Forum, where I coordinate and or which I coordinate. And it's important, this webinar is important for us because we also look at child online safety and protection when we hold our meetings, when we hold our forum, when we hold our events, not only in Nigeria, but across West Africa. And we develop policies. Most times our meetings are, or our forum is to raise the issues that pertain to our ability to use the internet responsibly as well as safely and stably. So, and our children are not left out of it. So I'm happy to be here. And I am also very happy that we have this crop of people sitting down together to discuss this issue and come up with recommendations which stakeholders can run with and which government establishments can and agencies can develop policies on. And so it is for all of us to look at it. And this webinar can never, wouldn't have been at all any other time, but now that we are interested in knowing, in making sure that children privacies, not only that they are respected, but they are protected as well. So thank you very much. Children are not just passive users of technology. Today, a child of 2 is punching a device that the parents may have given to them. My 10-year-old, 9 to become 10-year-old daughter, granddaughter, wants me to give her a laptop, a tab as a birthday gift. So they are not passive users of technology. They are active. Some of them do their homework with their devices. So we have all those ones there. They participate, they learn, and they also create. This girl I'm talking about is writing a book, a storybook, and she wants to be keying it into her device instead of writing with pen. So they explore, so we see them do that. However, their presence online exposes them to significant risks, which you all know, from data exploration and invasive tracking to harmful content, cyberbullying, inappropriate design practices that do not account for their evolving capacity and their vulnerabilities. You know, they are vulnerable. They want to, we adults are even vulnerable. When you start scrolling, you keep on scrolling, they push this content to you, another content, you want to see what is happening there. So in their own case, they may be doing their homework and this thing pops up. How do they manage it? So the topic before us today, what is right for children and their data, asks us to reflect deeply. Are we designing digital services with children in mind? Are we creating safe, inclusive, and empowering online space for them? Are we upholding their dignity, autonomy, and the right to privacy in every digital interaction, whether we are developing an app or we are designing a device, are children taken into consideration? So the answers to these questions must be guided by best practices, on which we are going to hear about today, right-based frameworks and a collective sense of responsibility, which I know this debate would throw up. We must look beyond compliance to build a culture of digital responsibility where service providers, policymakers, educators, parents, and guardians all play a role in ensuring children can benefit from the digital world without harm. That is key. That is very key. I want you to underline that. And as we debate, let's look at that. International principles such as the UNCRC General Comment Number 25 on children's rights in the digital environment and various data protection regulations provide a useful foundation. But more importantly, we need context-driven and culturally relevant solutions, especially within the African communities, especially Nigeria. There are cultural issues that we need to deal with. We want our children to imbibe our culture and not just import whatever they see on the online. Let me commend the organizers, please. Thank you for organizing this, and we would look forward to getting a actionable recommendation, which will turn over to policymakers, the lawmakers. We could bring them to know that these are issues that need urgent attention. I read about Meghan and Harry. What they are interested in what is happening to their own children online. So they are advocating. So many organizations are advocating for this. So we will not be left behind in Nigeria as well as in West Africa. Would also take into cognizance whatever messages that will come out from this short meeting, and would also amplify it during our West Africa Internet Governance Forum, which will be holding in Abuja, May 19 to the May 23rd. May 19 and 20 is School on Internet Governance Forum. May 21st, the youth will meet. Please you are invited. Register online and be part of this. We'll continue this discussion there. We are going to amplify it during the meeting, and we know that would bring context to it, and it would also come up with actionable messages and recommendations for all stakeholders in the internet ecosystem. Thank you, everyone. Thank you, organizers. Thank you, Erica and your team. Have a good meeting. Thank you.
Thank you very much, ma'am.
Thank you very much, Ms. Erica, our Executive Secretary. Thank you so much, Mrs. Mary Uduma, Mama Africa, Mama Internet, and our global mother, Mrs. Mary Uduma. Thank you for your welcome speech, and thank you for having us in this call. Right away, this is 11:25 already, exactly 11:25. I'm going to hand over the mic to our highly esteemed moderator, Mrs. Busayo Balogun, Head of Corporate Services, Nigerian Internet Registration Association. She's going to be taking the floor from here, and right now, everything you are asking for will be directed towards her. But before I proceed, if you are having any questions during this time, you can quickly log into our chat, or you can request for a mic to speak from the moderator. Thank you so much, Mrs. Busayo. I'll be handing over the mic to you now to proceed.
Thank you so much, Abdulrazak Imam. Thank you so much. Good morning, everyone. Good morning, distinguished participants. It is my pleasure to moderate this critical discussion. A lot has been said by the program officer, by the executive secretary, Mrs. Okibe, and our coordinator of the West African Internet Governance Forum, Mrs. Mary Uduma, so known as Mama Internet, our mommy. So I'm not just going to take much of our time. Our discussion today is going to focus basically on what is right for our children and their data. We are going to be talking about, the best practices when we are designing online services for engaging and protecting children. A lot has been said. Our children use the internet, from education to entertainment. So it is very vital that we not just only connect these children to these digital opportunities, but we must also find a way, to protect their rights, to protect their identities, to protect their future, and keep them safe online. So today, I'm not going to be doing this alone. I have the experts with me, as my fellow speakers. We are going to be talking about various topics. We are going to be talking about the ethical platform designs, and responsible data collection practices. We are also going to be looking at the legal landscape. We'll be looking at how laws like the Nigeria Data Protection Act of 2023 and other international standards guide our actions. So this workshop is going to dive into several key areas. We are going to be talking about the practical strategies that digital platforms can adopt to prioritize child safety, from the ground up. We're going to be talking about the legal and the ethical considerations that organizations need to comply with global regulations as it relates to children's data protection. We're also going to be talking about the need to balance engagement and privacy. Like, how can these online services that our children engage in, how can they deliver meaningful, how can they deliver an enjoyable experience without compromising our children's data security? We're also going to be looking at cross-sector collaboration. What are the roles of the policymakers, the tech innovators, educators, even families in shaping a safe digital ecosystem, and also the need to empower parents and guardians who are very important stakeholders, critical in protecting children online. How can we equip families? How can we equip parents, caregivers, educators with the tools and the knowledge that they need to help children navigate this digital risk? I think I will stop here, and I will just invite, my first speaker, Adama Samade. Adama is the head of legal unit of the Nigerian Data Protection Commission. And with Adama, with a wealth of experience, Adama is going to be talking to us about the legal landscape. She's going to be talking to us about the policy gaps, that exist in regulating children's data protection and how this can be addressed. Adama, you're on the call with us. If you're on the call, please unmute your mic and take us through this session.
Good morning. Good morning, everyone.
Good morning.
Okay, so I'm loud and clear. That's fine.
And it's
Thank
good
you.
to see you. Good
yes,
morning.
it's good to see you, Mr. Yes. So my name is Ada. So before I speak, thank you to NKF, thank you to NIRA for the invitation of the Nigerian Data Protection Commission, and of course, my very humble self. So before I speak on policy gaps, because I don't know how we are going to be saying, talking about the gaps when we don't talk about what is even available. So please allow me to brag a little about what is available. First of all, we all know about
I'm so sorry to cut you. I actually wanted to say, even before we take you through the gaps, you should let us know, what are the global regulations that even govern the children's data, and our organizations can comply. So before you even say there's a gap, rightfully so, we should know the regulations. What are the regulations in place to actually protect the children? Thank you so much.
All right, so I have 10 minutes, but I have a lot to say. So please, if I am talking so fast, just kind of, signal. And then if my time is up, just signal. You may not need to talk, maybe just your hands or something. I'll see the movement. Okay, so yes, thank you. So I'll start with what is available right now. And I'll start from the global landscape until we get to, our national landscape. So some of the laws that are globally acceptable that work with children's rights is you have the UNICEF's Child Online Protection Guidelines. Now, this is a very universal guideline on children that you can find almost anywhere. And these guidelines have actually made sure that every other global law and even some of our laws in national and regional levels have something to do with online protection and just kind of guide them, just like how the GDPR kind of guides every other law in data protection. You also have the UK age appropriate design code, which we call the UK children code. Now, this code developed or outlined 15 standards that you need to look out for when you're dealing with children's data. So it talks about having the best interest of the child at heart, make sure you're conducting a DPIA, profiling, nudge techniques, data minimization, data sharing, geolocation, parental control. When Mom Internet was talking, she talked about parental control. So those are the kind of things that the children code talked about. It also talked about detrimental. It raised the standard on detrimental use of data, political and community standards, and default settings. I think I heard somebody mention privacy by design. I think the first speaker talked about privacy by design, and of course you have the privacy by default. So these are the standards that have been raised by the UK's children's code that are also global and is being adopted one way or the other. You also have what we call the Children and Teens Online Privacy Protection Act. Yes, it's called COPA. It has COPA 1, COPA 2, and it outlines a lot of things, about children and, protecting their privacy. Now, one thing the COPA 2 did that was not in COPA 1 is that it kind of looked at, okay, let's not just look at children, let's look at teenagers. Remember, in the US, the difference or what they call a child is kind of different from what we do here. The Child Rights Act talks about a child and says a child is someone under 18, but in various countries in the US, you have that, going across, different ages. So you have 16, 13, 11, and all that. So that's what it does. So what the COPA 2 did was that it kind of increased it. Say, okay, we're not going to be talking about children. It also caters for people within 13 to 16 years of age. And these are global laws. Of course, Mom Internet also talked about the African Charter on the rights and welfare of children or of the child, and specifically Article 25 that talks about online protections of children and all that. So these are global laws that we have, that one way, global and regional laws that we have, that one way or the other can affect or actually affect national laws and children's privacy and protection online. Now let's come to Nigeria. In Nigeria, we have the Child Rights Act, which just deals specifically with offline rights. That's what I call them, because when we started having online rights, I figured that all the human rights we've always had is just offline rights. So it just deals with offline rights, and this is where the policy gaps now exist. But apart from the Child Rights Act, we will have what we call the Nigerian Data Protection Act, which the moderator has also kind of just highlighted. Now, the Nigerian Data Protection Act had some sections basically that talks and that speaks to children and protection and privacy online. So one thing you should also look at for the NDP Act is that it mentioned what a child is, and it states that categorically that is like exactly what the CRA mentions, which is 18 years. So anyone that's 18 years and below is a child as defined under the Nigerian laws. The Nigerian Data Protection Act also speaks to consent. For the purposes of handling data of children, the consent must be explicit. and it must either be from a parent or from a guardian. That means you cannot get it any other, it cannot be implied, it cannot be thought out of, it must be explicit and it must be given. And one way you can use to track it is that it also tells you that you must document those consent processes and ensure that your terms of service and privacy policy explicitly addresses children data sharing. This is very important because, you know, when issues happen, you will now have to show cause how you made sure that how you executed your consent. How did you get it? What form was it? Was it in a written form or was it a digital form where people answered questions? How did you get that consent? And the law, NDPA Act, actually speaks on consent and getting it explicitly when you're handling children's data. The law also somehow, you know, the good thing about our law is that you can extrapolate from it. Do you understand? It may not necessarily say a children's data must be handled, but when it talks about consent and getting it explicitly, know that it works for everyone. Another thing you should also look out for is the age and consent verification, which the law kind of, you know, talks about. It says that you must apply appropriate mechanisms for verification, like government issued ID, and then like technological tools like AI-driven age estimation tools. Now, it does not explicitly state AI-driven estimation, but it tells you that you must have appropriate technical measures that are in place to ensure that the data you take when it comes from children is very, very, very handled appropriately. Another thing it also talks about is the privacy policy. Now, privacy policy is very, very important. You must ensure that your privacy policy is very clear, it's unambiguous, it is concise, and it must make sense to the people that you're talking to. So now a privacy policy for people that actually have maybe from a bank is going to be different from a privacy policy from a gaming software for children. Because now I'm old enough, so I may actually know a lot of things, but children are not. Let me give you a very good data that is available now. Do you know that at the age of 13, 72 million pieces of personal data is on the internet about a child? So I have a 2-year-old, she's not even up to 2, but she always is on a tab or on a phone, which is not a good thing, but we are working moms, so that's it. Now, when she goes, we realize that if she's always on, maybe let's say YouTube or Netflix, if she's on it, we realize that because it's online, they get to pick data points from her. And then because we keep on clicking maybe a children's this thing, you realize that sometimes there are always what's it called, adverts. Because she kind of has, maybe let me not say because she has sense, or because she doesn't want her cartoon to be interrupted, she will always come and say change. So you have to skip. But you know that there are some persons that may just want to watch everything, and you see, because they already know that anytime this person comes online, they are watching this particular thing, they start curating adverts for that child. So already at the age of 2, if you're not careful, that child is already getting adverts that can harm that child from that age. So you always have to realize that you need technical measures and you need appropriate mechanisms to be able to ensure that that child is going to be watching or using the internet safely. Now let's go to the policy gaps. My time is almost up. let me move faster. So policy gaps. Yes, the truth is you cannot have any one size fits. Yes, you know, law or regulations and all that. The Child Rights Act was since like yesteryear, so obviously it does not even actually cater for what is happening in our reality. It doesn't even cater for digital issues. Talk less of when we started the digital issues, we were just looking at cyberbullying, but now you have things like children exploitation. So you have trending things, you have new things that come, you have manipulations that is already happening on the internet with child. So there are really a lot of policy gaps. And one of the things that we look at is even the fragmented legal framework. I'll give us a very good example. The Nigeria Child Rights Act has laws, is a federal law. Now the states do not have, not all the states have actually domesticated in quotes that law. Some states have gotten their own type of child rights acts that they call child rights laws that are kind of different from what the Child Rights Act says. So you see already there's a fragmentation between what is going to be happening at the federal level and what's going to be happening at the state level. Of course, even in enforcement, because enforcement is now inconsistent because the laws are inconsistent. Another policy gap that we have is inadequate protection from emerging digital risk. I've already mentioned this before, that the Child Rights Act doesn't say anything about digital risk at all. It doesn't say anything about digital rights. It doesn't say anything about online protection. Of course, we have the Nigerian Data Protection Act, which has kind of, said things with regards to protection, data protection, and of course, whether it's offline or online, talks about it. So these are the things that we do not have. Another gap is the fight between cultural practice and legal provisions. And this is where everyone needs to play a very key role. You have cultural practices that are entrenched. In Nigeria for now, I know that one of the cultural practices we still fight is FGM, which is female genital mutilation. And this is due to culture. So if you do not start fighting from the cultural level, if we just sit down on our high horses saying that we are this, we are that, we are addressing the elitists, it won't work, because where the issues happen are down there. So now, if for me that I am educated now, I know very well that I need to look at what my child is watching. But remember that downtown, where there is nothing like that, where 10 people are watching TV and we all want our children not to stress us, so we just put those children in front of that TV, anything goes for them. So you need to start having conversations, and serious conversations at the cultural level, at traditional level, with traditional leaders, with community leaders. Another policy gap we have is weak enforcement and accountability. Of course, from Nigerian Child Rights Act, we even know that child labor is 50,000 naira as fine, as in 2025. That's what you have as a fine for anybody that, exploits a child through child labor. So these are the things that we need to also look at. And one other thing is exclusion of marginalized groups. As it happens in the physical world or in the offline world, it also happens in the digital world. We know that almost every law we have does not address those marginalized groups. So we need to start changing that conversation. We need to start addressing intersectional vulnerabilities. We need to ensure that we carry everybody along in this space. So I think this should also be the best time that I talk about my recommendations, right? So that you don't call me again. Okay. So if I still have time, I'm not seeing your hand, so I think I still have one more.
Yes, I think we can. You have like 2 minutes for your recommendations, Ada.
Oh, okay. So 2 minutes on my recommendations. Thank you so much. So the first recommendation, obviously, probably because I'm in the government, so I would always say we need to harmonize legal frameworks. We need to start. So the thing is, we can't continue working in silos. The more we continue working in silos, the more it will be hard on everybody. Because evil thrives when no one is talking together, when everybody's just sitting down on their own and trying to figure it out. And it will never work. I've worked both in the development sector, in the private sector, and now I'm working in the public sector. I've been able to see that intersection and be able to see how we can do better if we actually talk together. So my first recommendation would be harmonized frameworks. Let's all come together, sit down on the table, and address the issues that are there. Another thing is community-centric enforcement. We need to be able to train traditional leaders. Now, I'm very big on this because I know that sometimes when they just say, oh, the internet, yes, the internet is not everywhere. It does not it's not maybe in everywhere in the rural groups or rural areas. But I've worked in a community where parents, maybe 1 or 2 parents have phones. And then there's somebody that has the traditional leader in his palace, he has TV. And the traditional ruler is big on children. So the mother, his wife gathers kids and they have one TV and everybody's watching. And you think that things are not happening at that level. Things are happening at that level. So we need to have community-centric enforcement, have those people on board, train them, tell them, these are the risks that are there, and then show them what to do. Another thing is integrating digital safeguards. We need to develop laws that criminalize things like online exploitation. Make use of the NDPA Act. Now, the NDPA Act may not necessarily say things that say a child must, but there are other things that pertain to general data protection, and these are the things that we need to look out for and incorporate them in the laws that we have. Then, of course, strengthen accountability mechanisms like family courts, children protection units, dedicate budget for counseling and all that. Let me give you a very good, a stunning research data. Do we know that in Nigeria, in this full Nigeria, the government issued or government-owned shelters are only 15? 15 government-owned shelters. It is terrible. Every other one that we have is for maybe somebody has and they're combining and they're collaborating with us, but the government-owned ones. And this is a very terrible statistic because it shows that we are not really doing what we ought to do to protect these children. Now, in that shelter, you would think it's just, okay, maybe they traffic you, let's bring you in. Or there's a lot going on there that we can actually leverage on. There are a lot of children there that, I've brought you in now, let me expose you to the internet. And you just leave them be and things happen and things occur. Then the last thing I'll say is prioritize inclusive policies. Collaboration is key. Collaboration is key. Talk with the NGOs, talk with the children, talk with the private stakeholders, talk with the government, talk with the developers of digital platforms, talk with everybody. Like, see, just bring everybody. Anybody that you hear talks about children, you ask them, what sector, what are you dealing in? If they say anything, bring them in, because that means there's an intersection between what they do and children. You cannot protect children if children are not in that space. Let those children tell you what to do. Let those children tell you that these are the things we are facing. You said you want everybody to go on the digital space. Assignments are now given online. I've seen your hand. Assignments are now given online, and what is happening after that assignment? I go on to game, I go on to apps. What are we doing about it? Thank you.
Thank you so much. I'm sure you quite agree with me. That's one thing about my colleagues, my learned colleagues. Once they start, it's always a bit, very interesting conversation, But again, because we are short of time, I don't know if there's any question regarding what Ada has presented. Ada talked about the policies. She took us through the global and national policies, guiding children, and then she now brought it back home. She brought it to Nigeria, where she talked about the Child Rights Act, and she talked about the NDPA. Of course, in her presentation, she also noted the shortfalls, and the limitations of the current, Child Rights Act as it stands. She let us know that it is a federal legislation, meaning that states have not adopted, not all the states have adopted it. In addition to the fact that when this law was crafted, it was back, is old. It doesn't cater for what we have, the current realities that we have. So from our conversation, I know she had mentioned the platforms. I think this will ease us into the next speaker's presentation, talking about how the platforms that our children engage in, how can we ensure that, that they implement age appropriate design, without also restricting this digital access. Like, we know this digital access is very fundamental because it's not only for entertainment our children, use, but they also use it for school, for educational purpose. So what can we do? What platforms, how can we implement those age appropriate design without restricting, this digital access and the learning opportunities? To join me to speak further on this, I'd like to invite Dr. Chris Owaja. He's the founder and is the chief architect of Mobile Software Solutions Limited. Dr. Owaja, I don't know if you're on the call. If you're on the call, please unmute your mic. And
well, thank you, moderator, and thank you for this invite and a very instructive conversation about what is dear to all our hearts. And I want to congratulate the CEO of NIRA, Madam Erica, for the floodgate knowledge that she has presented. And of course, the Madam presenter from the US, I think so, they just given the keynote. I think very awesome. That is why researchers have found out that women really trump other species when it comes to emotional intelligence. So I give it to her. Thank you very much. Now, you permit me just going to probably use 5 or 7 minutes because I need to catch a plane. All right.
okay.
Right. So now I think today, my concern that wraps it all is within the intersections that have been mentioned, that we look at what are the core target and what are really the massive dangers that have been committed with respect to a child's online data, and all the safeties buzzword that has been on there. And of course, what is the legislature doing, and of course, the penalties for those who have committed that crime. I think the central focus, I would say today, that sextortion has become perhaps the most devastating aspect of child online crime. And this has resulted into an untimely death of a lot of our kids, both the girl child and the male child. And of course, it's been listed that Nigerians are also, according to recent FBI files, that Nigerians are really a major destination for such a sextortion crime online that regards children. So I need to take this preamble so for us to lay down the gravity of the thematic of which the NKF has really dealt on, and they need to be congratulated for this intervention. My intervention will therefore probably focus on child online sextortion, safety, and of course, first, I would like to invite you to allow me to fast track my recommendations, which will be as follows. One, before I give you the thematic of why these recommendations are important, creating and developing indigenous local languages in voice and data formats for children online in order to enhance better understanding on the context and, of course, content of digital messaging and conversation. This translates, of course, into translating the Nigerian languages and data protection into about 5 Nigerian languages. You see, we all speak grammar as they say, but really within the context of our grammar speaking, a lot of values are lost. We need to be sincere to ourselves. No language in the world is complete, not in Chinese, not in English, not in Arabic. All languages have their values and they have their meaning and they have their deliverables that makes that emotion for decision to be taken very seriously. So to be able to protect our child, let's speak to them about data protection and safety for their life and the future in their language. This is core. This is very important. It's a very hindrance task, but really, people wrote the Bible. People created the dictionary. People created the encyclopedia. We should not be scared away from the challenges that is before us, but look at the benefit for the children as we march forward. Secondly, I think there's need for establishing a special secured room on the local internet gateways for children under the age of 13, because that's where the vulnerabilities are. And of course, we can track them by ensuring that, of course, those authentication of ages are there before they are allowed into those rooms or escape from those rooms to the other ones. And of course, we believe that where they can interact, discuss, as it were, and share experiences on children data, protection, and safety online. Because when kids play, when they talk to themselves, unless you eavesdrop what they are doing, you never really can read their mind. There's a lot that is happening there. There's a lot of emotional damages there. There's a lot of tears and drives that are following them. But then stoically, they prove strong and they don't want to share online. So there's need for us to see how we can do that. And one way we can do that is probably to create a special developers forum, youth developers forum, coders, create a webinar, a special webinar for coders who emotionally just code their life out to be able to show their mentor and whatever without really putting the trust for life of children, for safety of children, for protection of children in their forefront the code machine, as it were. But then we need to be able to ensure that we make them understand that they should code humanity for the sake of the children. Going forward, I think, as I've said, the child online education curriculum, I know that Erica and the rest of them will be working on that, and Mama Internet has shared such a thing for me. There has to be a child online protection safety uh, as an inclusive aspect of the child education curriculum in our schools. We can't just be talking about it in the uh, online forum or the corporate meetings and whatever. So Ndukwe Kalu Foundation is invited to convey those special conferences for young developers to share experiences on child rights and safety online. So now, those are my recommendations, and I'll quickly just give you an executive summary of my presentation. Crimes committed online, the rights of children regarding data and data protection are numerous, and of course, they include, data collection, as has been mentioned, as well, unauthorized, of course. And of course, you look at the inadequate data protection back to that collection. What are the judges doing? Do they really understand all these things? Okay, even without the judges, when AI takes over ultimately, which of course we are just seeing the flimsy, how will data collection be regulated, from the machine perspective point of it and the human intervention point of it. The misuse of data, of course, the data has become the new oil. The data has been misused massively. We have international fora where these things can be discussed and augmented. But what is IOC doing? How will data, that has resulted to deaths of our children, be regulated, from the international perspective? Because these are the extortions, okay? Pictures speak volumes. Pictures of our kids are there. Just, of course, it's a glory to the father and the mother that, oh, a new child is born, okay? And then you post the child picture online. Of course, the internet never lies. In the next 100 years, that picture is tracked. Then how do we protect that child when the child needs, a safety of herself and privacy of herself? As we said, the sextortion has become the real aspect of this the predators who have been following the girl and the boy child online. And this is where we really need to use the hammer to kill not only the fly but even the elephants in the room. So privacy violations, we all know these things are there, sharing personal data, manipulations and all what's not. But for me, the real danger that has caused death of our people are there. So I want to leave you with that, and I want to thank you for this opportunity and also wish all my other speakers the best of luck. Thank you very much. Yeah.
Thank you so much, Chris Uwaje. I know you said you wanted to catch a flight. Thank you for the recommendations. I also listened intently to your speech. And I think one thing that stood out for me was the translating the laws, into our local dialects. And I think it also ties back to what Adama was saying when she mentioned the gap, the cultural gap, and then, enforcement. Because the truth is, if we are going to these areas where we say they are marginalized, again, we can be here speaking our English, but are people educated? Are they literate enough to actually understand this? So I think if our laws it might be cumbersome, but if they are translated into our local dialect, this is also help at that level, It's easier, they can understand it, and they can help implement. Thank you so much, Dr. Waje. I know you said we're going to catch a flight. This is on behalf of NKF and the participants, and we wish you a safe flight. I don't know if anyone has any question for Dr. Waje before he leaves. If not, you can just drop it in the chat box and then we'll get back to you with answer. Thank you so much. So I think moving on, because this is time is far spent, we would like to invite the next speaker, Mr. Mohammed Woodman, who is the MD/CEO of Internet Exchange Points. And I must say my boss, the former president of the Nigeria Internet, the immediate past president of the Nigeria Internet Registration Association. Mr. Woodman, you're very welcome. If you're on the call, please unmute your mic. It's always a pleasure to listen to Mr. Rudman speak. Mr. Rudman will be helping us here with the best industry practices, for transparency and parental control in children's online interactions. And I don't know if Mr. Rudman would also like to contribute, to the earlier question that we had asked regarding the age-appropriate design that we should consider, when these platforms are being implemented. Why not restricting digital access and the learning opportunities? Mr. Rudman, you're welcome. Good afternoon.
Hello, good afternoon. How are you? I put my camera on. Can you see me?
Yes, we can see you.
Okay, I can't see myself here, so I don't know.
Okay.
Okay.
You're looking very good, Mr. Rudman, if I do say so myself. You're welcome.
Thank you.
Good to see you.
Thank you so much, the NKF, for organizing this. Yes, so this is not my area of expertise. I am not a legal person like some of the speakers, but I'm more of a technical person. And you see, to be honest with you, is why are we discussing this? We are discussing regulation, right? In terms of Nigeria, you mentioned that the regulations needs to be clearer, needs to come up in local languages for people to understand. Yes, that is correct. But even if you have, I think we have good regulations in Nigeria based on the earlier speaker that from NDPC. The truth of the matter is towards implementing those policies. The reality is, who are the people responsible? While we are doing this webinar, I try to see if there is a hotline in case there is a child online abuse. How do I report it? I checked the NCC website. There is no particular hot number I can reach out to. I checked for MTN and some others. I couldn't really pinpoint quickly. It's possible it's somewhere hidden, but I really couldn't find anywhere to report such incidences. The only place I saw a number is there is it checheyara.org, where they have 0800 again 8001. And I dialed that number. I couldn't reach. There is another portal that you can now submit online through another organization. But what I'm trying to say is that even though we have these rules, how do you really report it fast so that security agencies, legal organizations, government can take responsibility? There is nowhere to really report that fast. And we need to have this, I don't know if anybody that is here within the participants to let us know if there are such portals where you can immediately report such incidences. There is a panic where there is cyberbullying, maybe pictures or nude pictures of a teenager being circulated online. You need someone to really act fast. How do you report that? I went to NCC's website. I know they have this Child Online Protection Initiative where they have content in different languages, in Igbo, in Yoruba, and all that. So I think, we also need to focus in terms of implementing these rules. And the challenge is that towards implementation, the major challenge usually are funds. If you look at the cybercrime unit of the police department or EFCC, sometimes they are underfunded. Two, they lack the technical skills, the capacity to resolve and those issues. I have had series of engagement because of my vantage point to engage with some of those people at a higher level. I realize they don't have the technical capacity and skill. So we might be talking about rules, laws, and all that, but if there is no easy mechanism of getting access to those laws, then it becomes really complex. If you cheat me in Nigeria, to be honest with you, I will not go to court. I will just, forgive you and move on, because I know the bureaucratic processes that I will go through towards that. So I think we need to simplify that. And another thing is that, you know, in all these things, some people are making money out of this. Because they are making money, they are criminals. They are always ahead of the law. So to me personally, I think the responsibility is shouldered on the parents and the teachers. You know, the initial speaker mentioned that she gave her 2-year-old child. She's a working mother. You know, sometimes it happens. What can you really do? So, but the reality is, like, you want to cross the road, they said, with your eyes closed, you know, and just cross and say, okay, let's see, maybe nothing can happen. In reality, we need to find ways to protect our children. And there are different tools out there, especially, you see, there is technological aspect. The technological aspect depends on two things. One, you have the access networks, the internet service providers, the telecommunication companies that have responsibility towards protecting children online. Those access networks, they have to implement filtering, you know, blocking bad content and all that. Some of them have special services outside Nigeria. In Nigeria, for example, we have Airtel that have an app where you can activate, you know, that child protection and all that. So parents need to know that and ensure that as long as the internet service providers that are offering them services at home, they should engage with them. Possibly there are apps and services that they can render towards protecting their family. The second thing is on the application side, because the children go to applications. They go to websites, usually YouTube. In YouTube, you can create a profile for YouTube for children, right? And where they are only accessible to YouTube content that is meant for children. Even at that, you know that because outside Nigeria, some of the content that we feel is not appropriate for us, gay content and all others, is available online for children out there. You can go and restrict the kind of videos these children can watch. You can even narrow it down to the channels and all that. So I think it's important for parents to do their homework. You know, so their homework is to reach out to their service providers and to reach out, to find all the necessary things they need to do in terms of the applications online to protect their children. Part of it, for example, all the operating systems for Apple, there is a way you can use it to protect your children. If it's Android, Google has such settings where you can link up your account with children's account to protect your children. So in all these things, I think it's the responsibility of the parents. Of course, the Nigerian government, as I mentioned earlier, it's multidimensional problem where, you know, you have government that they really need to act and ensure that they have the right regulation and policies, and to also ensure that those policies are implemented. You also have the technology companies, the ISPs, the content service providers to ensure that the rights of children are protected. You also need to have the awareness. You know, all the regulators, the telcos must approach awareness and see how they can sensitize parents and guide parents. I would like to see in Nigeria where there is a particular website. If I go there, there is a content in different languages on how to protect, you know, your children's online information, on how to guide parents. I don't think there is such information, and I think we should have a dedicated, you know, portal where if you reach that portal, and that portal should be government owned, and that portal should be net zero. When I said on net zero is they should talk to MTN, Airtel, and all the rest. Even if you don't have data, you should be able to browse that website. You know, let's assume you have zero data on your phone, but you should be able to go to that website where you can report things against child abuse, you know, and you can find information and settings on different languages. So collaboration is also part of it. I think, you know, in terms of the government alone cannot solve this problem. The telcos cannot do it. The parents alone cannot do it. So there has to be a collaboration between all these entities, including the civil society, towards seeing that they find the gaps, just like the way we are discussing here, right? we are just interested parties. As I was invited. In fact, I said I'm not an expert in this field, but they insist that I must speak. You know, I have children. I try to see how I can protect them. It's just based on experience. But I think, you know, through the West African Internet Governance Forum, I think we should find a way to see how we can push for this in Nigeria, where you have a portal that is accessible, whether you have data or not, and it has all the key information and where you should report this information. I don't know whether that website is available or not, but I've checked online as we are discussing today. I couldn't find it. So thank you so much for listening to me. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you so much, Mr. Rodman. But before I let you go, Mr. Rodman, and like you said, I know you said you're not a lawyer, but we invited you here because we also understand that protecting children online is not only about policies. It's also about, there's a technical side to it, because they're accessing the internet, and accessing the internet comes with a lot of technical things there. So I just want to ask that, your own opinion, do you think there are other commitments? Do you think there are other things, you know, that the tech companies need to actually do to ensure that we have a safe digital environment for our children? You know, what do you think? You know, what are those commitments? What are the things that come, you know, top of your mind? That is, okay, you know what, we understand that the government is responsible, we have laws, weak implementation, but what can we in the tech sector, what can we do to also ensure that we play our role? Like you said, collaboration, what can we do to ensure that the environment is safe?
You are right. So one is to ensure that there is network filtering, right? As we speak right now, there are countries in the world that have international gate, what is it called, firewalls. We know of China, we know of Iran, and some of those other countries that are really filtering. I'm not talking about that, but we have other countries, even in Europe, where they go online, they check to make sure that those websites that are dealing with child online pornography and all other bad things are actually filtered by the telecommunication companies. So even if you know the website, you go there, you will not see that website because it's being filtered. And they use, or they can also use AI technology to filter those content. Some of them, they liaise with Internet Watch Foundation. There is a list there of database where bad websites are there. Some of them also partner with InHope and the rest to get the bad database of bad content, and they filter it. So I think that's the responsibility of telecommunication companies and internet service providers in Nigeria to ensure that. And also to have a special product meant for families which I don't know whether there is such product exists or not, but I checked, I couldn't find, where there is a data bundle on MTN where if you subscribe, all these bad contents are filtered. That's one aspect, you know, filtering and blocking bad content. They should be able to do that. And using those tools, they should be able to say, okay, there are parental control tools in those settings where parents can decide the level of protection of their children, whether it is for the parents or for the children. There is a way they can control it. So the technology companies also, like all the other content service providers, they do such things. When you look at Facebook, Google, Microsoft, they all implement such tools. But unfortunately, there is no awareness for the parents to take advantages of those tools. So we're talking about the technology companies now, the ISPs. I want to even focus on the ISPs and the telecommunication companies, right? Collaboration. They need to collaborate with authorities. I mentioned in my earlier thing that there has to be one particular portal where everybody can report their incidences. And there has to be a 24/7 hotline in all the operators, all network operators, especially the mobile network operators that carry 99% of internet traffic in Nigeria. The MTN, Airtel, Glo, 9Mobile should have a 24/7 hotline where people can reach out to them. Using that hotline, they should be able to communicate and partner with law enforcement agencies, police department, cybercrime unit, EFCC, Office of the National Security Advisor. All should come under one umbrella towards resolving such issues so that the telcos can report immediately to government. Telecommunication companies can also store metadata. You know, when you are browsing, there is a metadata. It means like the websites you go to, the time you log into, what you access, all those things, not the actual content. And that is important for the telecommunication companies to keep in their as record of their database. And some of them should hold it for at least a period of 6 months or 1 year, so that when there is violation and there was delay in reporting, you can still go back to the data log and extract the violators and find ways to prosecute it. Because even if you report these incidences, if there is no evidence, there is no way you can pursue it legally. And that's why I said telco companies can store this metadata for law enforcement agencies. The telcos also, because they have the customers, they are generating revenue from internet, they should have awareness and education campaigns. Some of them are already doing it. They should partner with the regulators to do it. They should sponsor events in radios, in TV stations. They should partner with schools. Teachers needs to be properly trained. And access, I didn't even mention earlier, access to internet in schools should be filtered. There should be a special services from all the internet service providers when they are giving educational institutions that is ensured that is filtered. I don't know whether it's done in Nigeria or not, but outside of Nigeria, in so many countries, that is filtered. There is special services for educational institutions. So telcos must partner with such schools, see the way they can provide awareness to the students and awareness to the teachers. They have the funds. They are extremely rich in all these things in terms of awareness, capacity building, advocacy. You need financial muscle to do it. And these telcos have the financial muscle and government to do this. To secure their infrastructure. I think I mentioned some of the things that I feel are critical when it comes to technology companies. There are other modes, but I don't want to talk too much. Thank you, Busayo.
Thank you so much, Mr. Rodman. You see, that's why we invited you here. When you claim that when they told you, said, oh, you're not. So you see, thank you for this expertise. You have the expertise, and that is why the NKF deemed it important to invite you to this critical conversation. Thank you so much, Mr. Rodman. And based on what you said, I think it's going to ease me to the next speaker, Mr. Kayode Agbera Odion. I'm so sorry. Is that the way to pronounce your name? Agbera Odion.
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon, Mr. Kayode.
Good afternoon, Busayo.
Good afternoon, Kayode.
Well, you are almost there.
I'm close, you see. So that is why we have to leverage on what Dr. Chris said. We need to bring our indigenous language. We need to make it compulsory. All these policies, even this webinar should be held in our local dialect, local content. Thank you so much, Mr. Kayode. Thank you for joining us. I know that this area, off of what Mr. Rodman said, I know that you have, you have some expertise, some technical expertise. So I'll just like you to see, just riding off on what he says, how can nations, developing nations, and I'll put Nigeria, how can we strengthen the child online protection in this evolving digital world, as in rapidly evolving digital world, if you could just share like your 1 or 2 cents, with us, we would appreciate it. Thank you, Mr. Kayode. Over to you.
Okay, thank you. My name is Kayode Agbera Odion. It's pronounced as it's spelled anyway, so it's easy to pronounce it if you just follow 2323 words, letters like that. Odion. So it's just
thank you.
Well, that is part of the pronouncement or pronouncing of my name kind of like introduces the complexities when it comes to bringing, especially in a country like Nigeria, that we have over 250 languages with other languages and sub-dialects and all. Then the problem is, how many languages are we going to actually diffuse some of these technical things into? I come from Edo State, and in Edo State, there is basically like no common language except Pidgin English that we can say is a common language for all Edo people and basically Nigerians. So that also has its own bringing in everything into the context of individual or ethnic languages has its own advantages and also has disadvantages in terms of how many languages are we going to try to bring it in, and all will some tribes not feel left out because they are small in number and all of that. Okay, now coming back to our discussion, we are looking at how do nations, looking at the Nigerian, West African, and African context, how do nations strengthen child online protection in a rapidly evolving digital world? In a statistical form, Save the Children says that every half second, a child somewhere out there in the world is making use of the internet, is going online for one thing or the other, at least a child every half second. And if we extrapolate and look at the calculation of how many minutes is in a day, and then therefore how many seconds and all of that, we find out that thousands of children, in fact millions if I may say, are going online every day, and they are utilizing different platforms, different softwares, they are accessing different things. Like what is her name? Adama, I think. She says she's a parent. I'm also a parent. I gave a tablet to my child, but I knew what I needed to do first of all. Before doing that, I ensured that and that is one of the issues with Nigerian parents as well. We don't research, like Dr. Rodman, if I called his name very well, actually said, we don't research before we do things most of the times. We just give our children things and we don't look at how do we control their access. And I'm busy, I'm a working mother, I'm a working father, I'm busy. Let me just give them this and that is all. But we as parents, we also need to go the extra mile to say, I want to know the effect on my child on this thing that I want to do. And then we extrapolate such now to a nation, to a region. How does a nation or nations in West Africa, nations in Africa say, okay, what do we need to do to ensure that as we need our children to move into this digital age? They need to do research. Schools are encouraging children to go online, assignments on WhatsApp and all of that. But then what do we need to do to protect these children? That is very, very important. And as nations, there are challenges when it comes to being online. One of them is we have rapid digital expansion. Since the time of President Obasanjo, when MTN came into Nigeria, we have seen that there has been rapid digital expansion, and that has resulted into growing exposure to online risks. So those challenges are there. But what do we need to now do? We need to implement proactive online protection strategies for our children. A lot of our speakers have spoken about the current threats that we're having: cyberbullying, exposure to inappropriate content, online grooming, privacy violations, addiction is even one of those things that have not really been spoken about. But many children are becoming addicted to their tablets, to their digital tools and gadgets that we parents have given to them. And I think it was Sweden, if I'm not mistaken, that of late said that, well, we actually said we wanted our children to go online, no more books. They pushed books away. But now they are bringing books back and trying to retrieve tablets from children because they have noticed that they did not actually look at the dangers before they implemented such policies. And the dangers now are staring them on the face, and they are looking for what do we do. So for governments, some of the key strategies that I would recommend that governments or countries within the African landscape go into in trying to protect or bring out strategies for strengthening child online protection. One is policy and legislation. We cannot do without strong policies and strong legislation from government. But just having policies is not enough. We need to also look at, I think Adama also spoke about it, we need to look at enforcement. Nigeria were very good at bringing out policies, laws, and all kinds of things that other countries in the world, they even come to copy. But when it comes to enforcement, we are very, very weak. So I would encourage that developing nations like Nigeria and West Africa and other countries in Africa look at not just getting those policies, but enforcing them, ensuring that they are enforced and across borders if possible. Thank God for the first woman that spoke, Madam Mary, I think, if I'm not mistaken. She is in charge of the West African aspect of digitalization and all. And I believe that it will be good to use that platform to see how all of these laws that we are creating in different countries, we can harmonize them within the African space and also strengthen them, and also see how across the West African landscape they can be enforced, so that somebody that commits a cybercrime within Nigeria and runs to Ghana can be picked up, or from Benin Republic to Togo, it can be picked up, and everybody will know that yes, it is not. We don't need to say, "Oh, I committed a crime in Nigeria and then I can go and hide anywhere." That is one very important thing that I think governments need to look into. Then we need to promote digital literacy. Most people in Nigeria that uses the internet just uses the internet without really knowing the dangers that the internet is hiding. There was a story about 14 years ago. They arrested some criminals in the US, and those criminals, they had a niche. Their niche was that they always burgle houses that the owners were not there. The owners were not around. And so the police were like interested. How is it that people know that the owners of these properties are not around? And they said, well, very simple. They just went, can we have access to a computer? They gave them access to a computer, and they started opening Facebook pages of all the owners of the houses that they have robbed. And you saw them posting pictures of where they were and all of that. And all they needed to do was to go and search and look at buildings where the owners have traveled, and they are pushing everything online. And then we know that they are not around. And so we go in, we rob, take our time to do everything we need to do. And we find out that most Nigerians are like those people. Everything we post is good. We want people to know that we are progressing, but then privacy is very important in this day and age. It is not everything we need to put out there. They all comes from educating people and ensuring that people have the prerequisite knowledge to make use of the digital space safely. Then we also need, most of our speakers have spoken about collaboration and partnership. Yes, very important. Partner, we cannot do without partnership. The government must partner with the technology creators. Technology creators must look at parents, look at the youth, look at the children, look at everything, look at the society and see, oh, when we in the agricultural landscape where I am doing most of my work currently, though I'm an IT person, we have what we look at when we are creating tools for agriculture called Principles for Digital Development under the ICT for the in agriculture. And there are 9 principles. And once we are bringing up an app, a software, we try to look at those principles and ensure that those, before that software or those softwares are critically are brought to use for farmers, do they or did they in creating those software follow those rules, follow those principles? I believe that it's also going to be nice for policymakers to look at principles that will guide the development of technology solutions for children, so that any technology solution that needs to go out there, we look at, okay, you submit it, it's vetted by a government body that says, okay, that is responsible for ensuring that those principles are followed. Any principle that is lacking in such an application, you tell the developer, please, we will not allow this to go out unless you go to implement this. It's lacking in this, it's lacking in this area, and that. So those are things too that we can also look at. Then technology solutions.
Oh,
Many
okay.
people
Sorry,
have,
Mr. Kirby. I thought you
okay.
were done. Okay.
Okay,
Are
no,
you
just about 2 more things. Technology
okay?
solutions. We need to invest in child-friendly tools. Most of our speakers also spoke about filters, parental controls, AI-powered monitoring systems. AI is the way to go nowadays. Blockchain technologies and all, they are all there. The government agencies needs to sit down and look at how all these things can be implemented, so that whenever tools and softwares are being developed for children, they ensure that they have filters, they have parental controls where parents can be able to click and say, okay, I want to control my child's access to this, my child's access to that. When I noticed that my daughter was going too much into YouTube, and I didn't want her in such a context, I deleted it from my own end, and she could not install it again by herself. Finally, we want to look at capacity building for law enforcement agencies, the judiciary, social services, social workers, and all. If we look at this, we see that many, in using the Nigerian context, many of our law enforcement agents, even the judiciary and the social services workers, are very much lacking in terms of capacity for enforcing technology solutions that have gone against the laws and the rules of the game in the land. And so those people that have to do with that, they need to be trained. They need to undergo constant training, constant capacity building to be able to be aware and to be updated on happenings in the field, because the technology is changing every moment. It is not stable, it's not stagnant, it's not stable. And so the law enforcement agents must also be up and doing through capacity building and trainings to ensure that they are relevant to all that is happening in the technology space. So thank you. I would love to stop here.
Thank you so much, Mr. Coyote. I know our time is far gone, but we still have our last speaker, our last but definitely not the least. And we have Mrs. Ruth Idode. I hope I pronounced that right. And then Mrs. Ruth is the Child Participation, Protection, and Promotion Officer in the Federal Ministry of Women Affairs. We would like Mrs. Ruth to just speak on the collaboration efforts, what are the roles of educators, policy makers in providing this safe digital environment. One of the key points we took away from the speakers, both Mr. Coyote, Mr. Rodman, and Adama, was the importance of collaboration. So, Mrs. Ruth, if you don't mind, if you could just speak to us, what can educators do? What can parents do? What can policymakers do? How can we collaborate, with the whole essence, with the focus of providing a safe digital environment? If you can just take this within the next 2-3 minutes, I would appreciate it. Remember what Dr. Waje said. He said women are a very special species. I believe in you, and I know that you'll be able to take us through this under 3 minutes. Mrs. Ruth Idode, over to you. Thank you so much.
Oh, thank you very much, Bisayo, for moderating this program. It's very, very interesting. In fact, a lot has been said, and I wish I have like 20 to 30 minutes, but just that the time is limited. So I have to just go straight to the point. First and foremost, for the questions you've asked, we have to do, there's supposed to be a kind of robust content moderation and filtering. A lot have, all the panelists, they have all talked about it. It's very, very key and important. Let me just talk also, age-appropriate platform design is also very, very key. Designing platforms with children's developmental needs is also crucial. Companies should implement features such as parental control. A lot has been talked about that. And then verification mechanisms. Also, kid-friendly interface. These are very, very key. Then also, strengthening privacy protection is also very, very key. I wish I could talk more. Protecting children's personal data should be a non-negotiable commitment for tech companies. These include minimizing data collection, implementing strong encryption protocols. These are very, very key. And a lot of all the panelists, they have even talked more on that. And I also want to say comprehensive cyber security measure is very key too. Tech companies should invest in robust cyber security frameworks to safeguard children against online predators, and cyber criminals. This was also talked about by Mr. Coyote when he mentioned how some criminals were also identified. And then also, I also want to add education and empowerment. Empowering children, it is very, very key. When all these softwares are being developed, is very also important. It's very important that children should also be involved in the planning. Empowering children, parents and educators with knowledge about online safety is an essential commitment too. So that is also very, very important. And one other thing that is also giving me concern is those at the community level. What is the plan of the government? The government needs to do a lot of sensitization. There's need to do a lot of awareness creation, because for those that are educated in the township, okay, they are getting the benefits. Like in Federal Ministry of Women Affairs, we have done a lot of sensitization in schools, in both government schools and in also other organizations where we have done a lot of sensitization on that, educating people, and then also collaborating with stakeholders. That one is non-negotiable. We need everybody on the table to make sure that this the desire and what is designed for what is appropriate for the children should be implemented. We need international, we need a CSO, we need to collaborate with CSO, we need to collaborate with national, international NGOs to make sure that the right thing is done. And also, lastly, my recommendation, there should be transparency and accountability. To build trust, tech companies must be transparent about their safety protocols and actively report on their progress. These include publishing regular transparency reports that detail content moderation efforts, policy changes, and incident responses. Additionally, companies should establish independent oversight mechanism to hold themselves accountable for their commitments. And also the government need to do a lot of work. You have some bodies that are regulatory bodies that need to, kind of carry out an oversight function to see that these things are properly implemented. Then innovating for the future. As technology evolves, so do the risk. Tech companies must commit to continuous research and innovation to anticipate and address emerging threats. This includes exploring new technologies such as machine learning and blockchain. Mr. Kayode mentioned it earlier, to enhance online safety and measure for our children. So thank you very much. I wish to talk more, but the time is so short for me. And I want to appreciate, I've really learned, despite the fact this is not my area of specialization, but I really learned from all the speakers. Thank you so much, Bisayo.
Thank you so much, Ruth. And I want to disagree with you on that last statement that it's not your area of expertise. We are parents, right? We are guardians. So yes, that is the whole essence of coming together, of having this webinar. So again, I think I want to use this opportunity to appreciate the Ndukwe Kalu Foundation, for organizing this. And I also think, to me, this is a way of collaborating, because we have, representatives of the various sectors in this meeting. So thank you so much, Ndukwe Kalu Foundation. So now this is the question and answer session. I'm just going to go straight to the chat box because I know that I saw one or two questions there. Apologies, I don't know if you can hear me. It's raining where I am, so my sound, the rain might be like a bit challenging, but I would scream so that you can hear me.
We can hear you.
Oh, you can hear me. Thank you so much. Okay, so I think the first, we have the comment from Isiaku Garber is asking, says, good morning, Isiaku. I think you're in a different network zone, but good afternoon. He's asking, how can you share this vital information to educational institutions at the basic level? I think this question is directed at Mr. Kayode. So Mr. Kayode, because of time, if you could just please go into the chat box and respond. You can drop a link, there, or drop your email so that Isiaku can reach out to you for those documents, for the information that he has requested. Zainab Aminu is also asking, says, thank you, Mr. Kayode, that how can we have access to the principles? Is there any available documents or links? Again, so Mr. Kayode, if you could just take your time and just go into the chat box and provide that information. Let me see. Oh, yes, we have a comment from Dr. Adebumi Akimbo. Good afternoon, sir. He says you are correct, and I think that was in response to Mr. Rodman's presentation. He says the process to seek redress is impossible, and I'm thinking this was when Mr. Rodman made reference to the judicial system, how difficult, how challenging it can be going to court and enforcing your rights, and now we would rather just forgive, the person who has wronged him than going through that process. He also noted that they have a sister civic organization to revoke pictures and videos, and he has provided that link in the chat box. Thank you, Dr. Kimbo. That is very insightful. We also have a question from Adiola Oluwatosin. Adiola Oluwatosin is asking, how can we confirm that the consent that has been provided by, that the consent that was given or provided is actually by a parent or a legal guardian? I think if Ada is still on this call, Adama, I don't know if you would like to respond to that, or you probably go to the chat box. Adama, are you here? Are you still with us? Okay, while we're waiting for Ada, I want to see if there's any other question. Oh yes, we have one from Amarachi Selim. Thank you, Amarachi. Thank you for being with us today. Thank you for participating. You're asking, you would like to know more about the Nigerian Data Protection Commission, their registration process for a startup. And then you also want to have Ms. Ada's email address for further conversation. Adama, my learned colleague, are you still here? Again, I think if you check the chat box, I think people are already responding to those questions. I think the NDPA, I think they have a website, you can go there. I don't know if Adama has responded. Okay, Mr. Kayode has responded. I don't know if anyone has any question. If you have any question based on what we have discussed today or a brief contribution, you can please signify by just show of hands, and so we can take your question or your contribution. I know we're out of time. This session is supposed to end at 12:45, so we are 1 minute behind time, but I think we did great. These are conversations that are very critical, just like I mentioned at the beginning, and it is good that we are coming together to talk about it. If there's no other question, I think this is a good time for me to thank all my fellow presenters. Thank you so much. Thank you for sharing, your wealth of knowledge and expertise. And I think it's at this time that I'll hand over to Mr. Abdulrazak, the Program Officer of NCAP. Abdulrazak, over to you. Thank you so much. Thank you for the opportunity again.
Akimbo is raising.
I think Mr. Akimbo is raising his hands.
Oh, Dr.
And there's
Akimbo,
one last question at the comment box.
Okay, so before we take Dr. Akimbo's contribution, there's also a question from Adiola Oluwato saying that how can it be confirmed? I think I read it out. I think Adama is going to take that. She's going to respond. Adiola, if you do not mind, Ada would help respond to that in the chat box. And Dr. Akimbo, pardon me, please, you can unmute your mic and just give your contribution. Thank you.
Thank you, Madam Busayo. Excellent moderation, I must confess, and I do appreciate the discussion so far. The only reason why I'm raising my hand is because as engaging as the discussion has also become, it has also steered us in another direction of collaboration that is very, very key. We need to move from talk to walking our talk. It's challenging. We had some partnership 3 years ago with ISPs, and we had a website that was up. Unfortunately, because we felt they wanted to be in charge, that's the partner organization, the ISPs, we believe it would have, been transferred to the NCC and matured to a state where NKF can actually say, oh, we can participate or we can collaborate with these people. It's unfortunate. Mr. Rudman has brought us to the attention that it no longer exists, that we can no longer have a quick call for online intervention or to put up an information that such a child online threat is ongoing. But like I said, this is a call to action. For us, I am wearing so many caps. So for us at the Internet Society, we are ready and able to partner with NKF. We also use this opportunity to call out any other organization out there, maybe DNS Africa Media, all the likes. We will be ready and to hit the ground running for Nigeria within the next 2 months, if given the opportunity. Thank you so much, Ma, and God bless everyone.
Thank you. Thank you, Dr. Akimbo. So before I go, we have a question directed to the Federal Ministry of Women Affairs. And so someone is asking, what are the literacy programs that are currently, being undertaken by the ministry in sensitizing age-appropriate content for children? Are there literacy programs? That's the first question. And if there are, what are the partnership levels for such sensitization? I don't know if Kaide wants to take it, or Ruth. We want to know if there are literacy programs that are being undertaken by the ministry now, for sensitizing age-appropriate content for children, and the partnership levels for such sensitization.
Okay, thank you very much to the questioner. Currently, in the area of online digital life for the children, no, we don't have any specific to the discussion we are having today, but we have other ones that we do. And with this discussion, I think we'll go back and then see how we can implement this as well in our programs for the year. What we do currently, we do those on drug abuse, child abuse, and all other ones. But for this particular discussion we're having today, child right for children and their data, we don't have for now. So, but with this, we'll go back to the drawing board and see how we can incorporate our discussions today into our activities for the year. Thank you very much. Over and out.
Thank you, Coyote. Thank you so much. And there's some questions here for Mr. Rodman and Adama. I'm going to hand them over to the host, and I think he can get in touch with them and get the response and then send it to who has asked. And the question borders about if there is any NDPC regulation that is in place to guide the design and development of online platforms. And then for Mr. Rodman is, what are the technical communities doing to stimulate cyber-safe regulations that are embedded in our infrastructures? But I think the host is here, Abdulrazak is here, and he can get those questions across to the concerned parties and then revert. So I think at this point, Abdulrazak, I know I was supposed to end at 12:45. This is 12:52. Pardon me, such interesting conversation. You would agree with me and the other participants. But again, thank you, and I hand over to you at this moment. Thank you so much.
Okay, thank you so much, Mrs. Busayo. Thank you so much for the wonderful presentations, or rather moderating this high-level panel. I call this high-level panel because of the caliber of speakers we have. It's so rare to have them in such a webinar, and thank you for of course, the short notice, and also spending so much time. 1 hour, 45 minutes, it's a very big time. And we really appreciate your time always, as usual. Just to let you know, these are also some of the partners we've been working with in the past, and we are hoping to work with them in the future. I want to also appreciate every speaker that has been part of this, from Mrs. Busayo to Mr. Rudman, to Dr. Chris Waje, to Mr. Kayode, Mrs. Itode, and also Mrs. Sisa Made. Thank you so much for joining this call. We really appreciate your participation. I know that there are some outstanding questions that needed to be passed across to Mr. Rudman and Isa Made. We will try our possible best to reach out to them, and in a very short period between, we are going to send all the recommendations and also the reporting details for some of us that will need it for personal reference. So I'll be going straight forward to read the action point and the recommendation received from this webinar quickly. So summary of the conversation on children's data protection online services. The discussion centers on the urgent need to protect children's data and digital rights in an increasingly connected world. Speakers addressed a range of pressing issues, ranging from the prevalence of child-targeted online crimes, inconsistencies in federal and state policies, and cultural and technical barriers to effective enforcement. Some of the key themes and insights that were touched include balancing engagement with privacy, such as the conversation emphasized by Adama Isamade on the need for online services to be both engaging and age appropriate without infringing children's privacy. Some of the speakers also spoke about the need to call for strict compliance with global data protection regulations by service providers. We also saw the need for raising concerns about exploitation in digital spaces echoed across the discussion. Also, participants stressed the importance of proactively identifying and mitigating online risks to children. Within the legal and policy aspect, Adama also highlighted the inconsistencies between federal and state laws on children's data protection. The need to harmonize enforceable laws across jurisdictions was also emphasized to avoid fragmented implementation. We saw Chris Owaje emphasizing that cultural norms shapes children's online behavior and must evolve alongside digital realities. Speakers also advocated for culturally sensitive policies and deeper community engagement, especially in marginalized areas. Quickly moving on to some of the action points. The recommendations are design-friendly, child-friendly online services that prioritize safety and privacy, ensure digital platforms comply with international and national data protection laws, engage parents, educators, and community leaders in promoting child online protection and digital private literacy, review and harmonize federal and state laws to address legal inconsistencies, develop inclusive digital policies that meet the needs of marginalized children, promote awareness campaigns on digital risk and responsible online behavior, foster cross-sector collaboration, implement and enforce age-appropriate design standards in children's online services, align local policies with global data protection data protection best practices, advocate for secure local internet gateway for users under 13 with activity tracking, investigate the role of AI and human oversight in safeguarding children's rights, work with security agencies to address funding and technical skill gaps, identify and utilize existing technologies that support child online protection, simplify technical content to improve accessibility and public understanding. So that's the recommendation so far from this call. Thank you everyone once again. I think at this note, the meeting has come to end, and on behalf of Executive Secretary, who unfortunately is not here, I would like to officially appreciate Mrs. Busayo for taking out her time to help moderate this session. This is a completely assignment that was given to her at a short notice. Thank you, Mrs. Busayo. Thank you, all other speakers, just like I've mentioned earlier, for finding your time to come. And we will send out all recommendations to your email, all reports for your purpose, and this brings the webinar to a close. Thank you so much, everyone.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Razak.
Thank
you.
Thank you,
everyone.
Bisayo.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you,
you.
Razak. Thank you, Busayo. Thank you,
so
everyone.
much.
Thank
Thank you.
you. Bye.
Another time.
Bye.
Thank you.
Okay, bye.
Thank you, everyone.
Bye.